So I officially took over as executive director on June 1. And what a ride it's been. We've had a lot of changes at the shelter. Those changes were due to what started out as a really small organization. About 7 staff and 25 guests, has grown to 22 staff, and we average at full capacity every night 125 guests. And that includes 10 families in our program. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of those changes, and one of our staff person is here, Traci. We're going to introduce her in a little bit. She's going to talk more about the real hardcore of the shelter, and that's our area of the programs and what we have going on. And I'll lead off a little bit and talk about the assistant executive director and I, Brian Blevins. He and I, in the last 7 weeks, have collaborated with 16 agencies in Douglas County to bring about more growth with no cost to the shelter. And what do you mean by that? Well, what that means is we're collaborating with other agencies where they're providing professional staff. And I'll give an example in the area of mental illness. Unfortunately, of those 125, those that are affected by mental illness, there's about 40%. We don't have the staff to help in that specific area, but by collaborating with other agencies like Burnt Nash, DECA, and some of the other agencies, they provide the staff. We provide the facility, the rooms, where those professional staff can come in and work with those specific clients. What's also exciting about all this is in the past, the guest, if you had to pull up information, it was on files. You may have to have gone to 3 different offices pulling up paperwork and files to know everything about that particular guest. And so what we've done now, and we're still in the process of fine-tuning it, is that particular guest is now, everything that is on computer. Starting off with their picture, when they first came to the shelter, the medication that they're on, who their doctor is, et cetera, et cetera. So any one person from the Lawrence Community Shelter, or anybody staff-wise that's authorized from the other agencies, can go on there as well and look. So you've got the one client and you have all that information, and this process, having it set up this way, becomes very, very valuable, and we can get a lot more accomplished and get the guest into the next phase of our program area, whether it's helping them with jobs and employment, mental illness, family programs, whatever that might be. So there's that great collaboration that's going on, and we're all real excited about that. Again, Traci's going to talk more about that. Our goal, when I looked at the statistics, the average stay for a shelter guest is 9 months to a little more than a year. We want to break that down to 3 months to 6 months. And what we want to do is make sure that those clients are ready once they leave the shelter. So we're not just going through a fast pace and let's get these folks out on in the community, but we want to make sure that we do it in a way that's effective for them and it's going to be productive for them. And that includes jobs and employment. It also includes housing. It also includes social skills, all the above. One of the things that we're looking at is, as a guest, is the whole person. And last Friday during our staff meeting, one of our staff brought up that they have a beautician that's going to come once a month at no charge and help with haircuts and styling of the hair for job interviews and things like that. So we're going to do everything that we can to help through this whole process so they feel better about themselves, they feel confident in themselves, and they're ready in the skill sets for job interviews and that. So we're going a little bit better, and these programs that I just talked about, again, keep in mind there's no cost. One is we're collaborating with other agencies, and we're getting others to be in-kind sponsors, like the beauticians. Traci, and I don't want to steal her thunder, she's brought in and we had weights donated. One of the complaints from our guests is they're gaining weight. We don't want them sitting around doing nothing. We talked about, as a matter of fact, this morning, that I noticed there were several guests in the dining area watching TV. We're going to put in the policy, no TV between 8 and 11:30. We want these folks to be involved with volunteer hours at the shelter, maybe cleaning, maybe washing the dishes, whatever that might be. Or we want them on the computers so they're learning computer skills and applying for jobs. So that's what our focus is, and it takes every bit of energy, and it takes a lot of staff. I would say right now all of our staff who are salary Monday through Friday are working holidays, working weekends, and some are putting in 10-hour days. And this is something that I've never, as an executive director, heard a staff member complain about. I really appreciate the dedicated staff that I inherited that's on board, that is willing to put forth that work and do a good job. So it's made my job a lot easier. I could go on for the next 3 hours. I'm pretty excited about where our leadership team, there's 7 of us that we're taking the organization to the next level. But I want to give Traci Goldsby an opportunity to talk about more in depth on the community service programs.
Thank you for the opportunity to come out and speak with you. I've never used a mic before, so I'll try and not bombard you. We have lots of programs to help people get back on their feet and heal from whatever may have brought them to the shelter. Stephen mentioned the mental illness or loss of a job, physical illness, substance use disorders. There's lots of things that bring our folks to us, but we really take pride in the fact that we are not just an emergency shelter. We're not just food and a roof over their head. We're really a place where people can come to heal and start a new life for themselves and really redefine what their own goals are. And through that, we of course have case managers, which is my role, and we also have one other case manager. We meet with clients as often as they like to meet with us. We do require some meetings just so we can see where they're going and where they want to be. In case management, it's really defined by what that person's goals are. They're sort of our bosses when we meet with a client. They kind of define their issues and where they want to, areas they want to work on and where they want to go. It's not a lot of us telling them what they need to do, because we all know that doesn't work very well. So under the case management program, there's lots of different things that fall into it. One is housing, obviously. That's important in getting people out of the homeless shelter. We do work with the housing authority here in town. However, they generally have a pretty long waiting list, and so that's one of the barriers we face in getting people affordable housing. We do utilize Catholic Charities. They have a rapid rehousing and homeless prevention program. Those are government funds that are administered by Catholic Charities, And once a guest has had some stable employment for a couple of months, they go in and Catholic Charities will help them locate and get set up with a new apartment. And that includes utility deposits, the rental deposit, lots of those little charges that not little, but lots of charges that people need help with. We also have our employment program. This is one area where we have an AmeriCorps worker through the United Way. The AmeriCorps program is a volunteer program. The AmeriCorps staff are appointed to our facility for a calendar year, and they come in. We have two this year. One is, her goal is improving our employment program, and so she will meet with clients. She also meets with employers to develop a relationship with the employers, so to break down some of the barriers and stereotypes of the homeless community and the homeless population. The employment program, they teach interview skills. They do mock interviews with people. They help them locate the jobs that are out there and apply for them. They also give support to people once they are employed, in as much as they want it, as much or as little as they want. We also have kind of a sub-goal of the education piece, which if people are interested in being in school, we also help with that. We are developing or trying to finish our education room out of the shelter. It'll have a computer lab where we can teach various computer skills or life skills, that type of thing, but that's kind of still under development. We also a lot of our folks are disabled but don't yet have their disability income. So we have an attorney from Disability Professionals that comes in once a week to meet with people in our facility. It kind of helps with one of the barriers of getting that disability is having that person in our facility so that transportation isn't an issue and people's comfort level and things like that. We also have, we help people address their substance use disorders, of course, alcohol and drugs and those kind of things. We collaborate with DECA here in town. They come out to the shelter and we'll do evaluations on people and then recommend their further treatment. And they of course provide that treatment. We have an AA group that meets 3 times a week out of the shelter. So there's another support system for people with substance use disorders. We also have a health program, which is the location of our second AmeriCorps worker. And she's placed there for a year to work to improve people's health. Under that includes maintaining preventative care versus going to the emergency room. We have a medication program wherein if people get prescriptions, they call it into the pharmacy that we use and we will pay for that. And they're delivered out to the shelter once a day. So we really want people to be on the medications they need and focus on preventative care versus kind of emergency care. As Stephen mentioned, we did get the gym equipment donated, and we're still working on getting it set up and the policy written on all of that, but that's a really exciting one. We have a lot of people that are interested in that, staying active and healthy. And then I think the major area under our programs that is sort of unspoken is the support that we provide. We do have, during the day we have our day staff that is there, but in the evenings and overnights and weekends we have at least 2 staff members there just to monitor the facility, but we are very careful in who we choose to work those positions. They generally have experience with mental health disorders, substance use disorders, so they can really provide meaningful, effective support in those areas. We do have a couple of outside groups besides the AA that come in and have support meetings at the shelter. We have some ladies that come in every Wednesday and make quilts, and that includes ladies from the community and then ladies that live out at the shelter come together and make quilts, and then we sell those as a fundraiser. We do have a women's support group out there for ladies who are survivors of domestic violence. So they come out once a week and meet with our ladies and really give good support in that area as well. The last program that I have written down to talk about is our family program. It runs slightly different than our singles program. We do take in the entire family unit. They have their semi-private rooms in the back of the shelter where we sort of keep the families isolated and insulated, I think is a better term, from the rest of the shelter, being that there's children there, and of course the vulnerability goes up much higher when there's children around. We can house up to 10 families. That would be 39 individuals, and we have our director of the family program collaborates with many agencies in town, including the public schools and Head Start and lots of agencies that our family program director collaborates with. So that's it in a nutshell for our programs.
Thank you, Traci, and I want to say something about Traci. Traci last year, for a year, was one of our AmeriCorps workers, and we created a position that was open for about a year, but we recreated a position in case manager, and most of what Traci did was a little bit of case management, and she did the medications for our guest. And so when she came into the role as case manager, she was well qualified in her degrees, and she's continuing her education to provide more services for the Lawrence Community Shelter. So you can see the quality in Traci that our AmeriCorps workers are at the shelter. This year we have 2 AmeriCorps workers, so that's a big help and relieves some of the burden from our overworked staff, and they are doing very well. And I think that's all we have, and Traci, if you want to come back up, there might be some questions that you folks have, and we'd be glad to answer those. Yes, sir.
Winter is coming,
Yes.
and I know the shelter gets filled up really tight. Do you have a provision from the city government now to have more than 125 when winter comes?
Yes. Lori's proposal was 160 guests, 30 degrees or colder. What we were given is we were allowed 40 degrees or cooler, 140 guests. And the reason the 140 is we don't have the facility for enough showers and restrooms for that many guests. So with staying within compliance, we're going to honor that. So good question, but yes.
Do you have churches that will take people that you cannot house?
We're
We used to
collaborating.
have that. I'm not sure it's still in effect.
Yeah, we're collaborating with many agencies like churches. We also call Kansas City and Topeka, we call those shelters, as they call us, because when they're full, one of the things is you don't want to just turn somebody away and they're out in the cold where they could freeze to death. And so our staff, as we're working towards that, to make sure that they have a place to go. Yes, sir.
One of the programs that Traci didn't or could not mention that you used to have was the dog food production. And I understand that was either discontinued or put in abeyance for lack of contracts. Do you have any plans to revive that or to provide another remunerative activity in which people can participate and raise a little revenue for the organization?
Yes, yes, and yes. Good question. I'm glad you brought that up. When I took over as executive director, one of the things that I was looking at, that program left the Lawrence Community Shelter a $40,000 deficit. So If we kept it for another year, we would have tacked on at least another $35,000. And as the executive director, the first thing that I learned on the first payroll was after all the payroll was met, we had $811 in our balance. And that was for 22 staff and getting all the bills paid. And it's been a struggle like that every week. As a matter of fact, last Friday, I didn't think the assistant executive director or myself would be paid. At the last minute, as they say, the last hour, we had a nice check come in that we didn't even know was coming in. So our prayers were answered on that. So we are in the process of a lot of collaborating. I've been on the phone with about 5 different grant people, because we really don't want our grants, as in the past, 1,000 here, 5,000 here, and a 10,000 here. What we want are the 6- and 7-figure grants, so we can have maybe reserves and we're not living paycheck to paycheck. But to answer your question about the Good Dog program, the decision was to eliminate it, which included 5 employees. And keep in mind, the Lawrence Community Shelter was paying for everything. So we saved about $6,000 a month in salaries and all the materials for the Good Dog. This Friday, I'm meeting a gentleman from Plano, Texas. He has an interest in buying the Good Dog program, and our conversation was involved a lot of things. One of that is to hire back those part-time and 1 full-time employee, rent out the Lawrence Community Shelter, keep it local. There's a popular program as far as, you know, dog biscuits, and the community and their dogs liked it. He also wants to go on a national scale. And living in Dallas, and this guy is an entrepreneur and a marketer. He's got all the skill sets. One of the things that I go back and look was that's how the program should have got started, where you had enough sponsors, maybe at a $50,000 level, before you kicked the program off and survive that way. So anyway, hopefully they have an interest to buy it, hire folks that worked in it before. They have a great interest in that, and continue to work and collaborate with the Lawrence Community Shelter, where our name and logo can be on that product, and also get a portion of that on an ongoing basis. So it's in discussion right now, and that will take effect this Friday. Good question, thank you.